Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're going over the Oblivion Remaster. This is an initial look. So again, I'm going to take some more time. I'm actually going to play through more to a good chunk, really. But yeah, this is just an initial look, and we're going to go over some how they actually captured the original with the remaster. How well did they actually do that? We're actually going to go over also what they changed in the remaster. And then we're also going to go over performance for the game. And then we're going to go over some other issues too. And then, of course, the total score. So the total score for me right now, as an initial look, is a 9 out of 10. Now, I did play. This was like my first real RPG as a kid. And so, yeah, Oblivion does hold a special place. So I probably, of course, have some bias there. And I wish to acknowledge that for the initial look, as I wish to be as objective as possible. But still, like, I'm taking the time to play enough to actually see what the game is offering, to see what they've done with the remaster, and then also to see what the issues there actually are, and actually trying to search for those as I'm playing. So let's go ahead and get into it all. So yeah, this game was 19 years ago with release. The base game, the base remastered version comes with the base game and actually all of the main DLC for like $50. So yeah, $50 is really cheap. A lot of value here actually for that compared to also other games that we see today, with just base games being $70 and then DLC on top of that. The deluxe edition is $60. You get the horse armor, which is kind of funny, and then you also get 4 weapons and 2 armor sets with that $60. The dev studio is Virtuos. They've done some good work on games before. They're honestly a pretty good support studio, and they have a ton of employees as well. Last count, they have 4,200 employees across the world, across quite a few different studios, and they're always working on different projects. And in this case, they're taking the reins completely for a game and remastering it. Now they've also worked on other remaster projects before, like Dark Souls 1 Remaster, which is really good, by the way, and then also the Bioshock collection as well. Even though that's been out for a while, that was a pretty fun remaster. Currently, there are no physical copies for Oblivion Remastered. It's digital only. File size is 123 gigs on the Xbox. And this is because of the ray tracing, the 4K, putting in all of the content that they could basically for the game. Yeah, the file size is huge, and that's probably partly why we don't actually have a physical copy, because this would require 3 discs if we did, just like Baldur's Gate 3. So did they capture the original? Yes. Yes, they did. It feels and plays like the 2006 release. It's clanky, it's janky, for the movement, for the combat, the swords, magic, and bow, they all feel the same. You can also like pick up objects independently and move them around, or to kind of like take them with you and put them somewhere else. You can also steal items and place them somewhere else, and then they're like, "Where's my stuff?" All that all that good stuff. We also have the original voice lines, so they didn't scrub any of that out of there, as far as I can tell so far. And I just laugh at some of the voice lines because I just love how unapologetic they are. And this really gives the characters some like 3-dimensionality. And we really need that in games today, because everyone is just so nice all the time. And so it's really nice to actually see original voice lines. We also have the original quests and the side quests too. I've played like Weatherly, where you take the brother, you clear the old Weatherly abandoned farm of trolls, and then you bring the brothers back, and boy, that is actually quite the jog to actually get them there, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, it's wonderful. It is wonderful that all of that is still there. The NPCs still have their original jobs and schedules. So at a certain time of day, they basically all wake up, they head to work, they do their job, they're there, and the city is living and breathing during the day. And then at a certain time of day, they all suddenly get up like they're possessed and all walk out the door and go to their respective homes and actually sleep in their beds and stuff, which is great. And so this also means that some stuff you can only run into for certain situations during the nighttime. or like early morning hours. And so it's actually really cool that you kind of still have this schedule system in the game. We still also have the same mini games like lockpicking and persuasion. And so, what all did they actually remaster for this? What did they change? Well, the whole thing is made in Unreal Engine 5. It looks like they took the creation engine and imitated it and rebuilt it in Unreal Engine 5 because it plays the same, moves the same, feels the same kind of like, as I was saying earlier, clankiness and jank is still there, and it's a extremely good imitation of the creation engine. The visual improvement is also amazing. The spell casting, the sparking in combat for weapons, shooting an arrow and actually seeing the dust puff up a little bit after the dust hits the arrow hits the ground, or actually seeing some sparks if the arrow hits steel or stone. It's just awesome to see that. The character customization is completely redone. There's also physics to more items, like headgear, for example. So if there's some kind of a flap in the back, that actually has physics to it now as your character moves and shifts and does combat in the world. We also have real-time shadows. There's also the effects with what they have for water, weather, the nighttime sky, the clouds, the sunsets. Dang, I mean, it just looks amazing. The fire effects, the ray tracing, it's all there. It really has a huge graphical improvement, and we would expect that, right? But like the shift from 19 years ago to today it really does show you how far things have gone. There's also facial animations. It's not just hi, right? Like there's actual facial contortion in the cheeks and the lips and stuff, and better animations in the brow and stuff like that. It's amazing to see. It's still not perfect, okay? Looking at real people versus a video game, yeah, you can tell, okay, yeah, this is a video game. But I would say even the animations are quite a bit better than Assassin's Creed Shadows. And then of course compared to the original, yeah, it's way better. So yeah, it's still not perfect, but it's pretty good. There's also biodiversity that they did with the different regions in the map. So it's not all the same type of tree, it's not all the same type of bog or swamp, it's not all the same type of coastline or mountain. There's some differences there. There's some changes in some of those regions in the map, and that's actually really cool to see. Apparently, everything, quote unquote, I don't quite believe that, as there's some kind of like texture overlay for like the armor and stuff. I'll get into that in just a second. But apparently everything is actually completely rebuilt from scratch. Again, this is not necessarily built with the creation engine. This is all built in Unreal Engine 5, so everything had to be built from the ground up. And I think in most cases it really shows pretty well. Now there are some things that are different, like in a way it is still definitely a remaster, because like let's take some armor sets for the example. Is like those kind of the armor shifts but not as a static piece while the person is playing or while the person is breathing, like the chest movement. So you can see kind of the expansion and the shifting of the armor in a weird way, as if it's a piece of clothing instead of actually a static piece of armor. There's also the hair too, which I think looks like garbage, and this is actually one of the easier ways to tell if it's made in Unreal Engine 5 or not for any game, is that the hair itself looks super glossy and polished, and also has kind of like a lack of depth and texture to it. And all of their hair looks like that in Unreal Engine 5. I wish they would change that, but yeah, the hair, in my opinion, doesn't honestly look great. They also took time to change the leveling system in the game. So you earn points and you can spend them as you wish on your attributes, right? Which is wonderful. Weapons also aren't all leveled now just through strength alone. There's now other things too in order to like deal with knives or daggers or lighter weapons. And so yeah, you have the heavy weapons, which are more for strength, and then you have lighter weapons, which are across multiple attributes. It also looks too like there's poise and stagger mechanics that are built into the game at a certain level, and there's also dodging too. So again, once you kind of work in leveling up some of your characteristics or your abilities in the game of what you actually get good at, you can actually start dodging, which is awesome. So again, they did tweak and changed some things for the combat for sure. There's also UI changes. Honestly, it looks cleaner for your inventory. It seems very similar, yes, but it's cleaner for your inventory. It feels like a better use for your triggers and bumpers to actually get around more efficiently and effectively. Once you kind of get used to that, it's a little bit of a learning curve for me because, again, I'm just used to clicking around with my D-pad. Also, the Magicka health and endurance bars, they're brightly and clearly presented and displayed at the bottom of the screen instead of all shoved into a corner off to the left side. So that's actually really nice too. There's also a few changes to item placement and inventory. So like something that would maybe be more important or that you're going to use more often is going to be higher up on the list. So one example that I got to see is torches, because torches used to be at the very, very bottom of that list, and now they're actually closer toward the top with almost everything else down below it. So that's actually a really nice change. Inventory too, you can now actually show a detail panel and actually zoom in on the object like you could in Skyrim. So that's really nice that that's actually in there. There's also a tutorial menu for new players, and it's a breakdown of pretty much everything. So if you've never played really an RPG before, or exactly how to navigate and get around stuff, or you've never really played a Bethesda game before, then yeah, you can actually take the time to go through the tutorial and just learn about everything, which is great. Swimming also too has a little bit more realism to it in movement, and that's actually kind of cool. While you're moving through the water or while you're trying to turn or shift sideways, there actually seems like there's a little bit of resistant movement, like you're slowed more than you are on land. And that wasn't the case in the original, so that's actually cool that they've implemented that. We can also sprint now. How nice is that? There's also super clear sound design with the game, and I mean clear. We're talking 19 years ago. Technology has definitely changed. These sounds are, I'm assuming, are basically redone with current technology, and man, does it sound amazing. The music, the birds, the breeze, the clanking of armor and combat, the voice acting even. Man, even with the same voice actors with some of them, which is really cool. But yeah, the sound design is freaking top notch. There's also new voice actors in the game, and so now races have like actually different voices for kind of everybody, which is nice. They have their own set of voice actors for each race, and then we also have the original voice actors too for some of those parts. So it's really nice to actually hear that. You're like, oh yeah, that guy. So that's kind of cool. So this is what we know so far from the community. Again, there's more videos coming out, but we also know that there's Nexus mods already if you're on PC, which is pretty sweet. We also have a FOV slider for your field of view, because yeah, let me tell you, getting stuck at like 75 or 80 with modern games today, that just seems really tight and almost claustrophobic. So yeah, you can shove it all the way up to like 110 or like 120 or something, which is wonderful. There's also origin selection at start, so while you're choosing your race, there's also choosing the origin of your race, as if there's kind of like sub-ethnicities within a race. So that's actually really cool too. Again, I don't exactly know if these have any bearing or any real effects on the game or what your playthrough is going to be. Maybe it does on your stats a little bit, but again, I actually haven't tested that and tried different choices. But there's only two. It's not like this is a massive thing, but I do think like the origin selection is a cool thing at the start. Let's go ahead and talk about performance and also some other issues. So I know it's a remaster. I know a lot of people are enjoying this, but these are things that I'm actually trying to find with being a critic and with presenting you guys initial looks and reviews, because that's my job. That's what you're here for. You're not just here just for me to disagree with you, right? You actually want to maybe see some things that you haven't seen yet, or maybe you want to make sure your money is well spent, and that's why I actually do this. So let's talk about the performance. Honestly, it's pretty bad in my opinion. And it was in the original too, so some of that also maybe is kind of characteristic and reminiscent of the game, and it's like, wow, yeah, this looks and feels and stutters like the original. It's so amazing. And, I didn't expect it to actually be this bad for the remaster, especially with it being, released in 2025, as we're, again, 19 years ahead now from the original. But I do expect this actually from Unreal Engine games. And Unreal Engine, as an engine, It does have its issues and it does have its flaws, and one of those is optimization. I don't exactly know if devs don't know how to optimize too well, or even if optimization is difficult for a video game in Unreal Engine 5. But there's something going on there because, again, this kind of seems to become an issue across the board. Let me take a drink of water. So even in performance mode, I'm running at 119 frames per second, which is really nice on my Series X. Inside buildings, inside structures, it's amazing. Okay, it stays really steady. It doesn't really move much at all. It generally moves somewhere between 110 and 119, and it really doesn't go out of that range very often. It's very stable. A movement will drop at some, and when we get outside, this is when we really start to see some of the issues and also crashes in the game. So when we're outside, we're seeing somewhere between 108 and 119, and we're also having these like CPU max stutters where the CPU can't quite keep up, and so there's these frame stutters in the picture and in the movement while you're playing. Again, these aren't all the time, but the more stuff that's actually going on in the game, the CPU seems to be struggling, and then you're having that stutter there because it's trying to catch up. Sometimes it would drop all the way down to 82, 84 frames per second. So when we're taking 119 down to 82, 84, that's actually a pretty big drop there. It's about 32%, and that's definitely noticeable because you're losing a lot of frames there. And you can especially see, too, with like the real-time shadows and everything, which does look really cool. All of these are still done in real time. So when you have sunsets, when you have storms, when you have sunrises, there is a lot of stuff that's actually going on and being rendered in real time, and that's difficult for the game to keep up with. And so while it's all loaded for you on your screen and your field of view, it looks fine and great, and it runs great too. Again, we're always hitting those 115, 119 frames per second. It's as soon as you move your character and new stuff has to be rendered, or changes in the draw distance for certain stuff, or adding in bushes and shadows and all of that, that's when you start getting those drops. Again, the lowest I got was all the way down to 82, but that wasn't too often. But that was happening quite a bit. I was getting 90, 85, 82. I was getting those while I was moving around when it was sunset. It did look really cool, but yeah, those frame drops when I was turning especially were pretty annoying. I did have one crash. So far, I haven't had that since. This is when you first basically exit the dungeon and everything tries to load in, and it is like everything. So you see the structures coming in, you see the low res, mid res, high res textures. You then see the shadows coming in and stuff, and like changes with the sky. Like you literally see it all being rendered in like a couple of seconds. And yeah, I would just suggest just sit there and just let it actually come in. I am curious too, though, if anyone else actually had a crash on Xbox or on anything else. I have heard there's some crashes for PC, and those seem to be a little bit more often than what's on Xbox. But again, I haven't experienced it myself. As I noted, switching to loading screens, is you'll get some of those frame rate drops because again you're trying to load in more stuff. But yeah, when you get into these loading screen sections, while there isn't much going on that you can see, there's a heck of a lot going on in the background because your frames drop to 40. So this is a 66% drop, 67% drop compared to what you would normally see. And again, this is even in performance mode. So there is a ton going on there because having a 66% drop is pretty insane. And then when you're going from 40 frames per second all the way up to trying to render everything and get it up to 119 again or 120, man, is that quite the struggle for the Xbox and the Series X. And I imagine that's a struggle too for PlayStation 5s and also for PC as well, because again, you're making such a massive jump. You're loading in so much more stuff all at once, and it's just not optimized. That's the issue. And again, this seems to be a common problem with all Unreal Engine games. This is even being talked about some with currently Expedition 33 that just came out, that just released, is there are some of these kind of like light stutters some of these performance issues for frame rate and stuff for optimization, again, because it's an Unreal Engine 5 game. And this is just a common problem. So I would like it if, with the next kind of big patches, or even like Unreal Engine 6, if Epic Games could really work on fixing this, making it easier, making it better, providing better suite of tools for optimization so that we can actually work on getting rid of some of these issues. Because when you have an amazing game like Oblivion as one of the best RPGs, or Morrowind, if you ever wanted to redo that, you really start thinking of the engine that you want to use. And Unreal Engine 5 is not great. Again, visually, it looks wonderful, but the optimization of the performance and how everything runs is pretty janky. Yeah, the worst one that I had was roughly 2 seconds to actually let everything pop in. And again, that's when you first kind of exit the sewer, or when you're first maybe loading into an area where like the ground actually dips down from you, and you're taking a look at different stuff. It's got to put in all the trees, all the bushes, all the rocks, all the NPCs if they're there. It's got to put in all of the shadows, all of the high-res 4K textures. I mean, there is a lot going on there, and it shows with that stutter that we get in the game. Other issues, too, that I've seen so far. The AI for NPCs still seems really dumb, maybe even worse to a degree. And, people following you get stuck on tree roots, get stuck on rocks, fences, even at loading screen doors. So when you're in a city and you're wanting to go actually outside the walls, that's like a loading screen right there, right? We're trying to get out of a building and load it out into the market district, for example, in Cyrodiil. And so, yeah, sometimes it's like, okay, you're waiting for the NPC that you're supposed to take to Weatherly, and they're not showing up. And so you got to walk back in, load back in, and then have them look at you, and then actually go back through the door again, load again, the stutter renderness as you first get into the world, and then they slowly pop out and fade into space at the other end of the door. So that's a kind of an issue, too. Sometimes too, these NPCs, they try to work around, they try to walk around stuff, they try to like reset themselves to be able to again progress and move forward, but they're not always successful. Enemies too, they also weren't always turn towards sounds while you're sneaking, or they really won't always go toward and investigate. And this isn't necessarily all the time, but this does happen a lot and pretty often. And so, yeah, they'll stay static, unfortunately, until they're usually fully aware of your presence. Or until you hit them with an arrow, or you're completely visible in the light or whatever. And that's kind of a disappointment. They also won't respond to sneak attacks on other NPCs. So they have to wait until you actually interact with them in the world. But like if you're killing their buddy, they'll just watch their buddy die and just continue to stand there and be like, what was that? As their buddy, just fell and died on the floor. And then they'll just go back to their business. So this is actually pretty outdated. This would be nice if NPCs actually were a little bit more aware, were a little bit more intelligent and investigative for stuff. And this is even on expert difficulty, and it's the same thing. So I imagine it doesn't really change for Master. I guess I could try that to see. But yeah, we'll talk about difficulty in a little bit. Also, too, the horses kind of get stuck, especially on steep paths when there's rocks nearby or signs. Some of those horses, again, just like in the original, they'll get stuck on the sign. They'll kind of get stuck on the rock, or they'll be in a weird place, or shift up and be standing on top of a rock face or a cart or something. And yeah, that's still there. Absolutely. Let's talk about lock picking. So while I'm not frustrated with the minigame itself, I actually think it's quite fun. It does feel like, though, that the lock picking actually has a really tight range for when you can actually successfully pick the lock, or something is lagged in the picture with what's actually happening in the game. So playing the 360 version, I did for about an hour and 15 minutes, was able to do some locks even on average, and while I did struggle a little bit, the 3-pin locks, I could still work through those pretty easily and actually get the rhythm down. In the remaster, I struggle with 2-pin locks, and I can't even do 3. Like, it's basically impossible. I spent, I don't know, probably 20 locks on a 4-pin lock, and I finally got it. And I took some time. I mean, it was my wife was watching me and she's like, boy, that looks really hard. And I was like, yeah, it is, because it's like even when it gets all the way up to the top and it looks like I can actually get the pin, I still snap my pick lock. So something's going on there, and it would be nice if they tweaked that a little bit. Also, the difficulty changes. So adept, which is kind of like mid or normal difficulty, when you make that jump to expert, man, is that a jump in difficulty. It's pretty challenging. So on adept, a lot of stuff is kind of like one shot, or two shot a lot of the time. Even at your weaker level for starting out in the game, it feels a little too easy. It doesn't feel normal. And then when you kick it up to expert difficulty, which is just the next step up, man, they get a lot more tanky. They take a lot less damage for stuff. They're also more aggressive. Also in their combat style, they're trying to actually, skirt or jank around a little bit more. They're waiting for an opening. And yeah, let me tell you, I mean, on adept mode, they were just kind of going for it most of the time, or there would kind of be this rhythmic pattern to their combat. And then when you switch to expert, it's like, okay, like the NPC is actually trying to wait for an opening to see how to get in there and actually find your chink in the armor or your imperfect, expertise in blocking and stuff or dodging out of the way. And so, yeah, this is actually pretty interesting to see because it really adds a whole new level of difficulty that I didn't experience on the 360 version. Again, playing on the 360 version, I played in expert mode, and so I know what that feels like. I spent over 200 hours on that, and then also, again, I took that hour and roughly 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, hour 15, hour 20 to play the 360 version before the remaster version actually came out. And again, it's like it was easier to deal with the mud crabs, with the rats, the goblins, the bandits, whatever. And again, these are like low-level beginning enemies, but in the remaster version, man, I'm getting my butt handed. And I really kind of got to plan things out and kind of poke one and bring it over here and take them down. And when I got, 2 or 3 enemies, that really starts to become a problem, and I basically just have to run at this point, which is kind of embarrassing. Or I really have to take my time and wait for those openings and really make sure I'm paying attention for the combat. So I can't even imagine what mastery is or what master is for difficulty. That has just got to be the tankiest health bars and the most aggressive NPCs that I'll say. But yeah, I'll eventually try that at some point. So yeah, it would be nice if they did tweak that a little bit, because again, that jump from adept to expert is really tough. And so yeah, you have some people already that are saying adept or normal difficulty feels too easy, and then expert is too hard. So they right now don't really have a sweet spot, and so they're kind of struggling with the game in that way. And maybe they should. Okay, maybe some of us feel that way, but it is becoming more popular for more options, more ways to build the game, develop the UI, your HUD, gameplay mechanics, to actually tweak all of that actually in the game. And that would be kind of cool if they actually bring that to the remaster at some point, like Bethesda did with Starfield. Overall, even with all of these issues and problems, Oblivion really shines as a fun RPG. And it's just, you can tell it's made for the players, it's made for the experience. It's not made for the companies just searching for money. And that's so nice to see. And so, yeah, AAA should really take a lesson from this, especially the AAA publishers and the directors of studios, because it's like they're making projects. I know they have their bosses, but like Hazelight under EA, they should take a stand for their studio and actually work on building games for their audience, because that can be to huge effect. And that's really how you make money, is if the players are happy, the money's going to come in, and you don't really have to worry about anything else. Everything will fall into its place. And so, yeah, for this, it's all about the experience, the content, getting lost in what's going on, the hidden moments that you find, and two, just the amount of choice that the player has in the game is really incredible today. A lot of AAA and AA feels kind of tightened down, feels guided. But this is just an open world where it's like, do what you want. And it's really cool, too, because people that have never played Morrowind or Oblivion or even Skyrim to a degree, or like Fallout 3 or 4, they don't really know like what they're missing. Starfield, in my opinion, isn't like the best representation of an RPG. I think there's definitely some things that they missed, even with like game and level design, like the cave systems. Man, these cave systems are amazing. I mean, they are handcrafted and put together, like compartmentalized, like building blocks. And it is so cool to actually run through those caves because basically every single one is different. They are a little long winded sometimes, but sometimes there can be some really cool stuff at the end. The caves in Starfield is just kind of like, meh, it's another hole in the ground. And after your fifth or sixth time, you just don't waste your time anymore. And so, yeah, I mean, all of the things that they built into Oblivion, all of the decision making that they did for the level design, how things played out, NPCs having their own schedule, being able to just kill and murder pretty much anybody in the game, and just living with those consequences, man, it is a wonderful experience. And I would even say, too, with the story in the game, calling you out to actually be the hero and to save the world. Like, I really miss that. Like calling out the best in you, and the game, um, adjusting and interacting and living or surviving basically off of after what you're doing with a as a player with the choices that you made or didn't make. And it's just really cool to see that. It's refreshing in a AAA gaming industry when they want to, scrub and cater your experience as much as they can so that you feel like you're doing a good job instead of actually allowing you, seeing you as an intelligent person, being able to make the decisions, to make the mistakes, and to have the experience. This is why a lot of people too also like Dark Souls and Elden Ring and Sekiro and Bloodborne and the list goes on, is because these games don't really hold your hand. It's like, look, here's the game. Here are the mechanics that you have, and now go play. And taking away the struggle, taking away the challenge, taking away the exploration part, um, and letting you just explore and see what's out there, and making your choices and decisions in the world. It's really taking away the trust to the player, and it's like, look, the players are going to figure it out. Okay, they're going to do what they want to do and have a fun time doing it, and it's going to be a blast. The real home run for me personally, and I think for a lot of other people, is that the 360 Game of the Year edition is basically remastered for $50. The fact that it's $50 really shows that there's a ton of value there, because even just the DLC in and of itself is like 50 hours, all of it shoved together. Because it's not just the Knights of the Nine and the Shivering Isles, apparently. There's also some other kind of like smaller, quieter DLCs that are also put in there as well. And, I'll get to see that as I play some more. But $50 just for the base game as a remaster is already really wonderful. And then the fact that they gave you the Game of the Year edition on top of it for the main DLCs of Knights of the Nine and the Shivering Isles, it's just amazing. I mean, the amount of playtime that you're going to have. And if you're looking for something to play and kind of a game that allows you to have choice and whatever, and yeah, it's not perfect. There is some jank there. Okay, it's not like buttery smooth, even with the game's flaws as a performance or even in game design to a degree, because it is an old game. You really start to appreciate just the level of design, the sound design, the music, the ability of choice, the ability to mess up and make mistakes and try again, and just the struggle and figuring out stuff and running through the stories, even the side quests. You're like, wow, those are amazing experiences. And that used to be normal in the 2000s. I'm holding up my hands, kind of shrugging, but it's like, yeah, I mean, that's how it was. It was about the experience for the player, and I think the remastered version of Oblivion does a wonderful job showing that. It also looks too, we're going to be getting a Fallout version as well. Fallout 3 will be remastered, very likely, because again, we got some hints at this during the FTC court case with Microsoft, and just like we did with Oblivion. So, man, I'm hoping. dude, that's gonna be another one I'm gonna be showing on the channel if they do it. But I think that's probably a few more years out. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. You can always find me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. Don't forget our playlist because we do more than just reviews here. And then you can also follow me at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee if you like. I don't always listen to the chats like when I'm doing reviews, gaming news, or deep dives, but when I'm actually playing video games, I'll interact with you guys all day, and I love it. So with that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys on the next one.